Aaron was not a hero, not a soldier, and not a leader. He was only a young mechanic who spent most of his life fixing broken machines. His days passed inside the cargo ship Wanderer, where he repaired engines, patched fuel lines, and argued with old tools that refused to work. He liked his simple life, far away from the politics of empires and the drama of powerful people. One evening, the Wanderer landed on a huge space station near the border of alien territory. The captain told Aaron to go buy spare parts for the engine. Aaron carried a bag of credits and walked through the crowded station. Traders shouted their prices, strange smells filled the air, and the walls glowed with hundreds of signs written in alien languages. Aaron could not read most of them, but he was used to guessing by symbols and pointing at what he needed. At the corner of a quiet hall, he saw a tall alien clerk standing behind a desk filled with papers. The clerk waved at him, showing a scroll, with many marks and stamps. Aaron thought this was another trade form, the usual kind that merchants use to confirm a deal. The clerk spoke quickly in a language Aaron barely understood. He pointed to the paper, gave Aaron a pen, and showed him where to sign. Aaron sighed, tired after hours of searching for the right parts. He wanted to finish the task quickly and return to the ship. Without asking too many questions, he wrote his name on the paper. The clerk smiled with sharp teeth and bowed deeply. Aaron felt strange but did not care. He believed it was nothing more than a receipt. When he returned to the ship, the captain checked the parts and laughed at how cheap Aaron had bought them. Aaron only shrugged. For him, it was just another day. He ate his simple meal and went to bed, never guessing what his careless signature had done. The next morning, the space station shook with noise. Alarms rang, banners unfurled, and a parade of armored guards entered the docks. The Wanderer's crew gathered at the window, confused. Bright golden ships floated outside, their sides marked with royal crests. The captain muttered in fear, recognizing the sign of the Narayan royal family. The guards stopped in front of the Wanderer and shouted for Aaron by name. He stepped forward nervously, wondering if he had broken some law. The guards bowed low to him, which made no sense. Then, with great ceremony, they announced, "By ancient contract, you are now the chosen husband of Princess Lyra of Naraya." The crew burst into laughter, thinking it was a mistake. Aaron's face turned pale. He argued that he was only a mechanic, not a noble. The guards showed him the signed scroll, stamped with royal seals. His own name was written there, clear as day. Before Aaron could explain, the guards escorted him through the grand halls of the station. Crowds gathered, pointing and whispering. Some cheered, others looked jealous. Aaron walked like a man trapped in a dream, unable to understand how a repair order had turned into marriage papers. Hours later, Aaron stood inside a shining throne room, facing figures dressed in silver robes. At the center of the room stood Princess Lyra. She was tall, graceful, and her eyes glowed with calm strength. She had natural beauty, the kind that needed no jewels to shine. Her long hair shimmered under the light, and her posture was proud. She studied Aaron with surprise, then looked at the scroll in her father's hands. The king himself explained that by Narayan law, any signature on this sacred document was binding. The contract was written for a marriage alliance, and by pure chance, Aaron had signed it. The hall filled with gasps and whispers. Some nobles frowned, calling it dishonor. Others smiled, curious about what this meant for the kingdom. Aaron felt his knees weaken. He tried to speak, but the weight of the moment crushed his voice. Princess Lyra finally spoke. Her tone was calm, but firm. "If the law binds us, then I will not dishonor tradition. You are my husband now, human, though you look unprepared for such a role." Aaron's mind raced. Just a day before, he was repairing fuel pipes. Now he stood beside a princess, tied by ancient law to a future he never wanted. He wanted to shout that this was a mistake, that he did not belong here, but the eyes of the royal court were upon him. The king declared the marriage complete. Trumpets sounded, banners fell, and the hall cheered. Arryn felt trapped inside a story, too large for him. The mistake of a tired mechanic had become history. As the guards led him to the royal chambers, Arryn wondered if this was the worst disaster of his life, or the beginning of something he could not yet understand. Arryn had never seen a palace before. He had grown up inside rusty metal corridors of ships, where the air smelled of oil and smoke. The palace of Naraya was the complete opposite. Its walls were made of crystal stone, glowing softly with colors that shifted like the surface of a river. Tall statues of past rulers lined the halls, and every step echoed across polished floors. The guards escorted Arryn through the wide passages, and he tried not to stare too much at the beauty around him. The clothes he wore were still the same, old mechanic uniform, stained with grease from the engine room. He felt smaller with each step, like a stranger who did not belong in such a place. At last, the doors of the royal chamber opened. Arryn stepped inside and saw Princess Lyra properly for the first time. She sat on a silver chair at the far end of the room, her presence calm, yet commanding. Her long hair flowed over her shoulders, shining under the soft light of the chamber. She wore a robe woven with golden patterns that marked her as a royal daughter of Naraya. Arryn stopped in his tracks. He felt his chest tighten, not because he was in love, but because the sight of her was overwhelming. She carried herself with such dignity that he felt like a shadow beside her. The guards announced his name and stepped aside. Lyra raised her eyes and studied him in silence. The moment stretched longer than Arryn could bear. He shifted his weight, unsure if he should bow or speak. Before he decided, Lyra's voice filled the chamber. "So, you are the one who signed the sacred contract." Her tone was steady, neither angry nor kind, only curious. Arryn rubbed the back of his neck. "I did not know what I was signing. I thought it was just trade paper. I am only a mechanic." Murmurs rose from the attendants standing near the walls. Some covered their mouths to hide laughter. Others shook their heads in disapproval. Lyra raised her hand, and the room fell quiet again. "By the law of Naraya, the contract is binding," she said. "You are my husband now. Whether by mistake or not, the bond is sealed." Arryn opened his mouth to protest, but stopped himself. The weight of her words pressed on him. He could not fight a whole kingdom's tradition. Lyra stood and walked closer. Her steps were slow but firm. When she stopped before him, Arryn noticed that she was taller than him by a little. She looked into his eyes as though searching for something hidden inside. "You are not like the nobles of this court," she said. "You look unsure, but there is no fear in your eyes. That is unusual." Arryn swallowed hard. He wanted to tell her that fear was indeed inside him, only buried deep, but he remained silent. The king entered then, followed by the queen and council members. The king placed his hand on Arryn's shoulder and spoke loudly for all to hear. "The human stands as chosen. Let no one question the will of the contract. From this day forward, Princess Lyra and Arryn are bound in union." The hall filled with mixed reactions. Some nobles bowed to accept it, though with tight faces. Others whispered, calling it a mistake that would bring shame. The queen's expression was unreadable, calm as stone. After the gathering ended, Arryn was led to a smaller chamber where only he and Lyra remained. She stood near the window, watching the glowing skies of her world. He stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, not knowing what to say. Finally, Lyra turned toward him. "I do not know you, human. I did not choose you, but law is law. We must live with this bond. I will not dishonor my people by rejecting it." Arryn nodded slowly. "I never meant to cause trouble. If I could undo this, I would. But I respect your law. I will not run away." Her eyes softened a little. though her voice stayed calm. "That is good. At least you have honesty. But honesty alone will not protect you here. Court life is not like your simple ship. There are eyes that will test you and words that will cut like blades. Be ready." Aaron felt his stomach twist. He wanted nothing more than to go back to the Wanderer and forget this whole mistake. But he also knew there was no return. The contract had sealed his fate. The next days were filled with endless ceremonies. He was dressed in royal robes that felt heavy on his shoulders. Servants instructed him on proper bows, gestures, and speech. Nobles watched him closely, waiting for him to fail. Aaron stumbled many times, yet he kept trying. Lyra remained distant, speaking to him only when needed. She was polite, but not warm. To her, this marriage was duty, not choice. Still, there were moments when she glanced at him with curiosity, as if she wondered how a simple human had stepped into her world. At night, when Aaron finally rested in the grand chamber given to him, he lay awake and thought of his old ship, his tools, and the life he had lost in a single careless moment. He asked himself again and again, was this truly only a mistake? Or was it the beginning of something greater that he could not yet see? Life in the palace was not easy for Aaron. Each day he woke to the sound of horns, the call of servants, and the endless demands of royal customs. He was given new clothes each morning, robes decorated with patterns that marked him as the husband of Princess Lyra. To Aaron, they felt heavy and strange. He longed for his old mechanic jumpsuit, light and simple, with pockets full of tools. Everywhere he went, people stared at him. Some bowed politely, though their eyes showed doubt. Others whispered in corners, saying that a human could never understand the ways of Naraya. Aaron pretended not to hear, but the words followed him like shadows. The hardest part was the court gatherings. Nobles filled the grand hall each evening, speaking in long, formal sentences filled with hidden meanings. Aaron tried to follow, but he understood little. When he spoke, his words were plain, too direct for their liking. Many laughed behind their hands. Only a few servants, the ones who worked quietly in the palace, gave him kind smiles. Princess Lyra remained distant. She joined him at meals but spoke little. When she did, her voice was polite, never unkind, yet always cool. She treated him as a stranger, not a partner. Aaron could not blame her. After all, she had not chosen this marriage. He often caught her staring out of windows, her face thoughtful, as if she was dreaming of a different future. Still, Lyra was respected deeply by her people. Everywhere they went together, crowds cheered her name, children brought flowers, and elders blessed her path. Aaron noticed how she carried herself with calm pride. Even when she said little, her presence filled the room. One evening, during a royal feast, Aaron made his first mistake in front of the nobles. The servers placed before him a strange dish made of glowing fruit. Aaron, without thinking, picked it up with his hands instead of the ceremonial fork. The hall went silent. Nobles stared at him as though he had broken a sacred wall. A few chuckled cruelly. Aaron felt his face burn red. He quickly set the fruit back down and reached for the fork. Princess Lyra's expression did not change, but he noticed the faintest sigh leave her lips. After the feast, she spoke to him privately. "You cannot act like a mechanic here. Every move you make is judged. The nobles are waiting for you to fail so they can call this union a disgrace." Aaron clenched his fists. "I am trying, but I am not like them. I do not understand their ways." "Then learn," she said firmly, "for my sake and for yours." Her words cut deep, but Aaron could see the truth in them. He was not only himself anymore. His actions now touched her reputation as well. The next days he worked harder. He studied the customs with the help of a kind old servant named Doran, who had served the palace for many years. Doran taught him how to bow correctly, how to hold the ceremonial cup, and how to respond when nobles spoke in riddles. Aaron still stumbled, but slowly he began to improve. Yet whispers continued. Some nobles claimed that the princess deserved a warrior, not a mechanic. Others said the human was weak and unworthy of her hand. Aaron heard these words and stayed silent, though inside he burned with frustration. Then one morning trouble came to the palace. A messenger arrived from the border colonies, his armor broken and his voice urgent. He reported that the Draxan Dominion, a powerful alien empire, was gathering ships near Naraya's borders. Their armies were known for their cruelty and their hunger for conquest. Fear spread through the court like fire. The king called a meeting of the council. Aaron was allowed to sit at the side, though most ignored him. Generals argued over how to respond. Some wanted to send fleets at once. Others wished to wait and see. The hall filled with loud voices. Aaron listened quietly. He thought of the engines. He had repaired the weak points of ships, the way battles could be turned by simple tricks. He wished he could speak, but he knew the nobles would only laugh at a human mechanic giving advice. Still, Princess Lyra noticed his thoughtful look. Later, when the council ended, she approached him. "You were silent today, yet your eyes told me you had ideas. Why did you not speak?" Aaron hesitated. "Because no one here would listen to me. I am nothing to them." Lyra studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Perhaps, but I will listen. If you have thoughts, share them with me." Her words surprised him. For the first time, she was not cold, but curious. Something in her voice carried respect, faint, yet real. That night, Aaron lay awake in his chamber. He thought of his old life, where his hands fixed broken machines, not kingdoms. He had never wanted power or titles, yet now, by mistake, he was tied to a princess, a court, and a world on the edge of war. He wondered if he could remain silent forever, or if one day he would have to show these nobles that even a simple mechanic could hold value in the stars. The news of the Draxan Dominion spread across Naraya like a cold wind. Farmers in the villages whispered of invasion. Traders in the markets raised their prices, afraid that war would soon block the trade routes. Even the nobles, who usually argued about ceremonies and titles, now spoke with worry in their voices. In the palace, the atmosphere grew tense. The king held council meetings every day, but no clear plan came from them. Some generals urged immediate attack, saying that showing strength would make the Dominion hesitate. Others warned that rushing would only weaken their forces and give the enemy reason to strike harder. Aaron was present in these gatherings, though always seated at the far edge of the hall. He said little, but he listened carefully. He could see the fear behind the proud voices. He noticed how every plan seemed too complicated, relying on large armies and heavy fleets that could not move fast. Princess Lyra watched the council as well, though her expression stayed calm. Many nobles looked to her for strength, for she had always been admired as the brightest star of the royal family. Yet even she could not silence the growing arguments. One evening, after a long council session filled with shouting, Aaron found himself walking beside Lyra in the garden of the palace. The night sky of Naraya glowed with 3 moons, and soft crystal flowers lit their path. Aaron broke the silence first. The nobles talk and talk, but nothing changes. They fear each other's voices more than they fear the Dominion. Lyra glanced at him. "You see clearly, human, yet you remain silent inside the hall. Why?" Aaron sighed. "Because I am not one of them. I am a mechanic. If I speak, they will laugh. They already wait for me to fail." Her steps slowed. "Perhaps. But silence will not stop war. If you see a path, tell me. I will listen." Aaron hesitated, then spoke his thoughts. The Dominion is strong, but strength makes them blind. They expect others to fight the same way, with big ships and heavy weapons. But battles are not only about size, they are about surprise. When I fixed engines, I learned that small changes could decide if a machine failed or worked. The same is true for war. Small strikes in the right place can turn the tide. Lyra's eyes narrowed with interest. You mean, instead of meeting them with equal fleets, we use smaller forces, moving fast, striking where they least expect? Aaron nodded. Exactly. Not to win everything at once, but to slow them, confuse them, make them doubt. For a moment, Lyra studied him in silence. Then a faint smile touched her lips. Strange that a mechanic sees what our generals do not. Perhaps you are not as unfit for this role as many believe. The next day, Lyra brought Aaron's idea before the council. As expected, many nobles mocked it. They called it foolish and weak. One general laughed, saying, "Does the princess now take lessons from a ship repairer?" The hall erupted in cruel laughter. But Lyra raised her voice, sharp and commanding. Enough. You call him a repairer, yet his mind works sharper than your swords. If you cannot see the wisdom in a different path, then perhaps you are the fools. The hall fell silent at her words. The king frowned, but he did not silence his daughter. In the end, a compromise was made. A small unit would test the human strategy, while the main fleet prepared as before. When the meeting ended, Aaron expected Lyra to walk away as usual, but instead, she paused beside him. Do not let their laughter break you. You spoke with sense. That is what matters. Days later, Aaron found himself standing on the deck of a Nerean scout ship, surrounded by soldiers who did not trust him. The mission was to strike a small Dominion outpost near the border. The soldiers doubted the plan, but they obeyed because Princess Lyra herself had given the order. The battle was quick and sharp. Using Aaron's suggestion, they attacked the outpost's weak fuel lines instead of the main walls. Explosions ripped through the Dominion base, forcing the enemy to retreat. The soldiers returned victorious, their eyes wide with disbelief. When they reported back, the court buzzed with surprise. Aaron's plan had worked. The Dominion had been slowed, their advance delayed. The generals still muttered excuses, but they could not deny the result. For the first time, whispers about Aaron in the palace were not only mocking. Some now spoke with curiosity, even respect. And Princess Lyra, who had once looked at him as a burden, now regarded him differently. Her gaze was still calm, but there was something new in it, a quiet recognition. That night, as Aaron walked alone through the palace halls, he felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The Dominion was still coming, stronger than ever. The court still doubted him. Yet he had shown that a simple human could bring change. He wondered if this was only the beginning, and whether his mistake of signing a paper had placed him exactly where fate wanted him to be. The success of the border strike spread quickly through the palace. For days, nobles spoke in surprise about how a small force had defeated the Dominion outpost. Many still doubted, but none could ignore the result. Princess Lyra gained praise for supporting the plan, and Aaron's name was whispered with more curiosity than scorn. Yet not all were pleased. Some generals warned that relying on human tricks was dangerous. They said luck had played a bigger role than skill. They wanted to return to the old ways of battle, with large fleets and endless power. Aaron listened quietly, but he knew the truth. The Dominion would not be stopped by strength alone. They were bigger, faster, and had more ships. Only by thinking differently could Nerea hope to survive. One night, Lyra visited Aaron's chamber. The guards outside bowed as she entered, her presence filling the room. She stood tall, her robe flowing like silver water, and spoke with calm authority. "The council is still divided," she said. "They respect the victory, Yet they resist change. If we wait for them, the Dominion will crush us. We must prepare. In secret? Aaron looked at her with surprise. You mean we plan without them knowing? Lyra nodded. Yes. I will gather soldiers I trust, ones loyal to me, not to the whispers of jealous nobles. You will guide them with your ideas. Together, we will prepare Naraya's true defense. Aaron hesitated. He was no commander, only a mechanic, yet her eyes held steady trust. Finally, he nodded. If you believe I can help, then I will try. From that night forward, Aaron and Lyra worked in secret. In hidden chambers beneath the palace, they met with young officers and soldiers eager to prove themselves. Aaron explained. Simple strategies he had learned not from books of war, but from years of repairing machines. He told them how every system had weak points, and how a small strike in the right place could stop even the largest machine. He showed them how to use traps, false signals, and sudden movements to confuse the enemy. At first the soldiers were doubtful, but when Aaron built small models of ships and demonstrated, their eyes widened with understanding. Lyra supported him at every step. Her voice gave his words weight, and her presence inspired loyalty. She trained beside the soldiers, showing them that a princess was not too proud to fight with her people. Aaron admired her determination. She was not only beautiful but strong, and her calm wisdom balanced his plain and practical mind. As weeks passed, the secret group grew stronger. They practiced quick strikes, silent movements, and teamwork. Aaron repaired old weapons and made simple modifications to ships that gave them surprising advantages. Where the nobles dreamed of grand battles, this group prepared for clever ones. One evening, after a long day of training, Aaron and Lyra stood together in the courtyard, watching the twin suns set. The air was cool, and the sound of soldiers practicing still echoed nearby. You have given them new spirit, Lyra said softly. They fight with hope now, not just duty. Aaron shook his head. It is not me alone. They follow you. They believe in you. Lyra turned to him, her gaze steady. They believe because you showed them another way. You see what others cannot. That is your gift. Aaron felt his chest tighten at her words. For so long he had felt out of place in the palace, but now, standing beside her, he felt a spark of belonging. Their work soon faced its first test. Scouts reported that a Dominion raiding party had entered Naraya's outer region. The council argued again, but no plan was agreed. Finally, the king ordered a cautious response, too slow to stop the enemy. Lyra acted at once. She gathered their secret group and launched a swift strike. Aaron guided the plan, using the knowledge of fuel systems to disable the Dominion ships. The soldiers followed with precision, and once again, a small Narayan force defeated a larger enemy. When they returned, the people of Naraya cheered. Crowds gathered in the city streets, celebrating their victory. For the first time, Aaron saw joy in their eyes when they looked at him. He was no longer only the outsider who had signed a paper. He was now part of their defense. Still, danger grew. The Dominion was not blind. Each defeat made them angrier, and they began to prepare for a larger invasion. The palace walls echoed with rumors of warships gathering beyond the stars. But in the midst of fear, hope also grew. Whispers spread of a human who fought beside the princess, who taught new ways of battle, who turned mistakes into victories. Some called him lucky. Others began to call him clever. And Lyra, who once saw him only as an unwanted husband, now stood beside him as a true partner. Her trust in him deepened with every battle they faced together. Yet Aaron knew the hardest test was still to come. The Dominion would strike with all its power, and Naraya's fate would hang on the edge of survival. He wondered if his simple tricks would be enough when the storm of war finally reached their world. The morning sky of Naraya glowed with an uneasy red. Scouts had reported hundreds of Dominion ships approaching the outer planets. The people of Naraya braced themselves, knowing that the greatest threat in their history was finally at their doorstep. Inside the palace, Arin and Princess Lyra stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Soldiers moved in organized lines below, preparing defenses. Smoke rose from training fields where young recruits practiced with intense determination. Lyra's calm presence gave confidence to those around her, and Arin tried to steady his own racing heart. "This is it," Lyra said quietly. "Everything we trained for comes down to today." Arin nodded. He remembered all the nights of preparation, all the secret strategies, and all the lessons he had shared with the soldiers. The Dominion was strong, but he knew Naraya had something no other empire had: the cleverness and courage of its people. The first wave of Dominion ships arrived in the outer atmosphere. Huge vessels glided through the sky, their metals shining like black fire. The council had panicked earlier, demanding direct confrontation, but Lyra and Arin had already set their plan into motion. Small, fast Narayan ships moved between the Dominion vessels, striking weak points in engines and weapon systems. Arin's careful calculations guided their attacks. On the ground, traps designed by Arin slowed the Dominion troops' advance. Hidden energy barriers, clever misdirections, and strategically placed obstacles caused confusion among the invaders. Soldiers who had trained under Arin and Lyra moved with speed and precision, making every strike count. The battle intensified as more Dominion ships entered the sky. Arin directed the defenders with quick commands, showing where to attack and how to block enemy maneuvers. Lyra stood beside him, her voice steady, as she inspired soldiers to move faster and act braver. Together, they were more than human and princess. They were leaders, working in perfect harmony. During a critical moment, a massive Dominion ship broke through the outer defenses and headed straight for the palace. Arin's mind raced. He spotted a weak point in the ship's energy. "Core. Focus on the core!" he shouted. "Hit it together, and it will fall." Soldiers fired carefully aimed energy pulses. The Dominion ship shook and exploded, raining debris across the battlefield. Cheers erupted among the Narayan forces. Even some of the doubting generals stared in astonishment, finally recognizing the effectiveness of Arin's strategies. As the battle continued, Arin noticed that the Dominion was changing tactics. They were trying to surround Naraya's forces and cut them off. He quickly calculated new formations and ordered the soldiers to reposition. Lyra followed his instructions, using her authority to move troops faster than the Dominion expected. Hours passed, and the sky was filled with the sounds of explosions, alarms, and the shouts of soldiers. Arin worked tirelessly, moving between command posts, adjusting strategies, and keeping morale high. Despite his exhaustion, he never faltered. Every decision mattered, and the lives of his people rested in his hands. Princess Lyra fought alongside him, her calmness inspiring courage in the soldiers. She directed reinforcements, comforted the injured, and made sure the civilians were safe. Arin watched her and realized that she was not only beautiful and wise, but she had the strength to lead a kingdom through its darkest hours. Finally, after hours of fierce fighting, the Dominion began to retreat. Their forces were scattered, their ships damaged, and their troops demoralized. The people of Naraya had won, not by power alone, but by courage, cleverness, and the unity of humans and aliens working together. As the last enemy ships disappeared, beyond the horizon, Arin and Lyra stood together on the palace balcony, watching the quiet return to the land. Soldiers cheered in the streets, and citizens brought flowers to honor their heroes. Arin felt a mix of relief and pride. What had begun as a simple mistake had now changed the destiny of an entire kingdom. Lyra turned to him, her eyes warm for the first time. "You were brave, human. You were clever and strong. Naraya owes you more than words can say." Aaron shook his head, feeling humbled. "I only did what I could. The soldiers followed and you led. Without you, nothing would have worked." She smiled, faint but real. "We did it together. Today we are not only bound by law, but also by trust." For the first time, Aaron felt that the palace was no longer a cage. He had earned his place beside the princess, not because of a signed paper, but because of courage, intelligence, and heart. The people of Naraya had seen that even a simple human could rise above doubt and change the course of history. As night fell, the sky cleared, and the stars shone brightly over the city. Aaron and Lyra stood side by side, knowing that challenges would come again. Yet they also knew that together they could face anything. What had begun as a mistake had become destiny. The morning after the Dominion's retreat was filled with celebration. Flags waved across the city, citizens poured into the streets, and music rang from every corner. Soldiers who had fought bravely returned with smiles and laughter, their eyes shining with pride. The palace, once tense with worry, now shimmered with joy. Aaron walked through the halls, wearing the ceremonial robes of a hero. For the first time, he did not feel like a stranger. The people bowed to him with genuine respect. Children reached out to touch his hands, fascinated by the human who had helped save their world. Aaron smiled, feeling warmth he had never known. In the quiet corridors of his ship, Princess Lyra appeared beside him. She wore a simple robe, her hair tied back to show her strong features. Her eyes were filled with pride and trust. She looked at Aaron differently now, not as a human who had signed a mistake, but as a partner who had changed history. "You were extraordinary," Lyra said softly. "You saw things others could not, and you gave courage to our soldiers. Naraya owes you more than words can describe." Aaron shook his head, humbled. "I only followed what I knew. You led with strength and wisdom. Without you, none of this would have worked." Lyra smiled, her calm gaze meeting his. "Perhaps. But today, people see that even someone unexpected can become a hero. You showed that being human is not weakness. It is strength when paired with courage and heart." Word of their victories spread quickly across Naraya and neighboring systems. Leaders from other planets sent messages of congratulations. Some offered alliances, hoping to learn from the clever strategies Aaron had used to defend Naraya. Others simply admired the courage of a human standing beside a royal princess. Inside the palace, the council convened to discuss the future. Many nobles who had once doubted Aaron now spoke with respect. They recognized that his ideas had saved the kingdom. Even those who had laughed at his human ways were forced to admit that he had proven them wrong. During the council, the king stood and addressed everyone. "Today, we celebrate more than victory. We celebrate courage, trust, and cleverness. Aaron, who came to us by accident, has shown that the heart and mind of a human are worthy of our respect. From this day forward, he shall hold a place of honor in Naraya." Aaron felt a mix of pride and disbelief. He had only wanted to fix engines, to repair ships, and to live a quiet life. Now, he stood recognized as a hero across a galaxy. He looked at Lyra, who gave a small nod of approval, and felt a new sense of belonging. Later, Aaron and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The crystal flowers glowed softly under the evening sky. Soldiers and citizens passed by, bowing and greeting them. Aaron had learned their names, their stories, and their hopes. He realized that Naraya was not only a kingdom of power, but also of heart. "You have changed many lives," Lyra said, walking beside him. "Not just with your ideas, but with your courage. You taught them to believe in themselves and in what is unexpected. Aaron looked at her, feeling the truth in her words. I never thought a mistake could lead to something like this. I only wanted to live simply, yet somehow, this world trusted me, and I learned to trust them. She smiled, softly and genuinely. Mistakes sometimes lead to destiny. What began as a contract you did not understand became a bond that changed our world. Together, we showed that courage, wisdom, and heart matter more than power or tradition. Aaron reached for her hand, and she allowed him to hold it. He felt strength in her grip, but also warmth and understanding. They had faced war, doubt, and fear together and had emerged victorious. Their bond had grown beyond law, beyond obligation, into trust and respect. As night fell, the stars of Naraya shone brighter than ever. The kingdom was safe, its people hopeful, and its leaders wiser. Aaron looked at the sky, thinking of the galaxy, beyond, and realized that even the simplest human could make a difference in worlds far from home. He smiled, turning to Lyra. I never imagined this life. Yet now, I feel that this place, these people, and even you are part of my true home. Lyra returned his smile. And we are stronger together. What was once a mistake is now our destiny. The palace was filled with laughter, light, and hope that night. The humans and aliens of Naraya celebrated not only survival but the courage and cleverness that had saved them all. Aaron, the mechanic who became a hero, and Lyra, the princess who led with wisdom, stood side by side, ready for whatever the future would bring. A single signature had changed everything, but it was their hearts, their courage, and their unity that had truly written history.